Hi. Would you like dog training to be easier and more fun? Well, I hope you give this episode a listen. My name is Mary Debono, and this is the Easier Movement, Happier Dogs podcast. And today, what I want to talk about is how dog training can reflect your values and can reflect a lot of the work I teach, where because what I do is a hands-on method. Okay. It's a very gentle hands-on method to improve your dog's body awareness, their mobility, their flexibility, their balance, all kinds of good stuff. And if we think about some of the concepts I talk about, we can also apply them to dog training. So let's start with this. Number one, I'm using the term dog training, but I actually think about it as teaching your dog rather than training your dog. Now, that may seem like a silly distinction, not important, but actually really is important because it changes how you approach it. If you think about training, it's like it seems like that you want your dog to do something, kind of like almost no matter what. But if you think about teaching your dog, right, that has a different flavor to it, doesn't it? So that's number one. I just wanted to say that from the outset. Same thing with the hands-on work that I teach, the Debono Moves. It's you're giving the your dog the opportunity to learn something new. So it's not like training, right? It's more teaching. So think about that. What does it feel to you when you think about helping your dog learn something rather than training your dog to do something? It's very different, right? And one of the things you want to do if you're thinking of teaching, right? If you're hoping that your dog is going to learn something useful, you think about how you can set up the environment so that it is a successful learning environment for your dog. That means you might, in the beginning, minimize distractions. You want to make sure that you choose a time and a place, right? That's going to be, that your dog will associate good things with, that your dog isn't really hungry, isn't really distracted by other dogs or other activities. You take the time to set up the environment. And then, of course, over time, as your dog learns, right, and gets more comfortable, and you can start to change the environment to add some challenges. That's all part of the process. And we do a similar thing with the hands-on work with Debono Moves. We make sure, especially in the beginning, that your dog's distractions are kept to a minimum so you both can succeed. Right. So it's really important that you set this up. And I go into detail about that in my book, Grow Young with Your Dog, which I have right here if you're watching the video. And, we talk about that because that is so important. You want the dog to be in a place where the dog can learn, that the dog can focus on you, and also that you can focus on the dog and on what you're doing together. Okay. Super important. The other thing that you do is you really listen to your dog. So in the Debono moves that I teach, right, it's all about really sensing, right, with your hands, with your eyes, with your ears, all your senses. You're noticing things about your dog and then adjusting what you're doing accordingly. Well, you do the same thing when you're teaching your dog, don't you? Right? Because you're noticing what your dog understands, you're noticing how your dog responds to you, and it's a dialogue. It's not a monologue, okay? So it's very, very similar to how we approach the hands-on work, okay? The other thing is you really, in both scenarios, whether you're teaching your dogs particular things that look like dog training or you're doing the hands-on work, you find what your dog can do easily, and then you build on that. You expand on that. So you don't start with something that's very difficult, right? You find where is the ease already? Where is the learning? Where can this be easy? And you build on that. And that brings me to one of my favorite questions that I say a lot is, how can this feel easier? So whatever this is. So in the context of the hands-on work, that's what you're asking with your hands. You're asking your dog, how can this feel easier? Or can you do this easily? Right? It's always along those lines of finding the ease, the pleasure, the comfort from the movements. And you can think of that the same way when you're teaching your dog other things, when you're doing some training. You can think about, what does my dog do really well? And how can I expand on that? How can I build on that feeling of ease? Right. And the other thing that we do in both scenarios, both the hands on work and dog training, is you want the dog to associate it with feeling good, right? So maybe with your training, you use a lot of games. It's like you make it a fun time. So it's fun for you as well. Well, we do the same thing in the hands on work. We want the dog to associate movement with ease and pleasure, with feeling good. You want their body to feel good, their mind to feel good, right? So this is really important. Okay. And then for you yourself, your intention, your attitude is so important in both scenarios, right? And having that playful, curious kind of partnership attitude will serve you well, whether you're training your dog or doing the hands-on work with your dog. Okay. It's so, so important. It's such a huge part of this. And that's all, like so much of what living in harmony with your dog is about, isn't it? Having that partnership. We love that so much. We get such joy from that connection. So in both situations, whether you're focusing on training or you're focusing on the hands-on work, right, it's kind of one and the same. It's like the same philosophy, the same concepts can be transferred. Okay. So, so again, I would ask yourself this, when if you're ever stuck, whether again with the hands-on work or the dog training, it's like, how can this feel easier? How can life together feel easier, more joyful, right? More harmonious? So let me know what you're struggling with. If you have a particular challenge with your dog, please let me know. You can always reach out to me, mary@marydebono.com. And I want to say thank you so much for listening and subscribing to this podcast. I love sharing this work, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Bye for now.